So as not to frighten you too much, my name is Joyce Ann Coleman Heilman, and I want to give you this autobiography I wrote 66 years ago when I was in the 6th grade. A Tale of Me. The Tale of Me by Joyce Coleman. My teacher writes, A-, interesting title and cover. Pictures need to be placed where they happened. A very nice booklet. It shows that you put some time and thought to writing and arranging it. I enjoyed reading it and looking at the pictures and illustrations. A-. Title page, The Tale of Me, with the copper tone little girl showing her tan when the black Cocker Spaniel pulls her romper down. Written and illustrated by Joyce Coleman, published by Me Incorporated, 1960. 66 years ago. Table of contents. Title page, dedication, table of contents, outline, easy come, I thought I was a pretty baby, never still. First one foot, then the other, preschool me, all my beautiful golden curls were gone. Photographs. Me at school, I went to Point Clear School, 9, 10, 11, 12. Each class learned several dances, the crystal ball, oh crystal ball. The Tale of Me, the outline is my babyhood, my arrival, date, time, and place. My appearance, hair, eyes, length, unusual and interesting events, discovered hand, naming, christened, talking, toddler stage, special events, walking, new baby, third birthday, preschool age happenings, haircut, pets, toys, illnesses, chicken pox, primary school days, first days at school, when and where, teacher, activities, lunch, boyfriend, special events, pageant. Intermediate school days, teacher in school, program, trip, teacher in school, trip, vacations, a trip to Waynesboro, Mississippi, trip to my aunt's house, teacher, friends, happy times, unhappy times, problems, personal. The future, education, high school, college, career, and family. Easy come. I thought I was a pretty baby. On April 27, 1948, a young couple came into the Port Huron Hospital. Behind them tagged a 3-year-old girl. They stood in the main hall and talked for a short time. Excuse me. Then 2 nurses came and took the young lady and her luggage to a ward on the 2nd floor. The rest of the family went home. At 2:33 a.m., a baby's scream was heard in the delivery room. A new life had just been born into the world. The new life was me, the start of many exciting happenings from then on. It was Wednesday, April 28, 1948. My father was notified immediately, and he came to the hospital just as quickly. I thought I was a pretty baby with my dark hair and blue eyes. The doctor said I was 21 inches long, but my mother kept saying I was so tiny. As the time wore on, I discovered an object that was attached to me, but I didn't have time to worry about that because my parents were trying to decide on my name. They finally decided on Joyce Ann. I guess I thought that was okay because I didn't cry about it like most babies I've met do. I was almost 4 months old when I began to worry about that object again. Only this time I noticed I had 2 instead of 1. I saw that my mother had 2 objects too. She used hers to bring me a white bottle with warm juice in it. The next day I noticed I had two more objects. They were a little different in size and shape. I used them mainly for defense. Sometimes I would start screaming, and then Mother would come and hurt me with one of her objects. My first thought was to hurt back, so I did with my different objects. This only brought about more hurt from my mother. I soon learned that it was better to keep my objects to myself. On April 17, 1949, which was Easter Sunday, I was christened at Avoca Methodist Church by Reverend Harold Parker. It must have been a long, drawn-out meeting because I can't remember a thing that happened. I began to talk at 1 year. My first words were Mama, Papa. I had heard my sister call them by those names. I learned fast, and I could say many words, such as Daddy, Sister, hand and feet, instead of objects. Never still. I could talk before I could walk, but that didn't last long. You see, since my first Christmas, my feet had gotten stronger and wanted exercise. Besides, I was getting tired of having everything brought to me. I decided I would get things for myself. I was sure I could do it because I had seen my whole family, 3, walking, but there was one slight problem: my pen. It had seemed like a prison for the past few days. I knew one sure way of getting out of it, though. I could stand in the middle of my pen and yell with all my might. This would bring my mother running in from her work and make my big and only sister start to cry. This would double my mother's worries, so she would pick me up and carry me around while she did her work. But I wanted to surprise everybody. I would have to climb. I started up the side of the pen. Since I was a hefty baby, as soon as I reached the top edge, the pen collapsed. Down I fell with a crash. At last I was out. I crawled over to the chair and pulled myself up on my feet. First one foot, then another. Fall, get up, and so on. Finally, I was able to walk without falling. I toddled right into the room where my mother was working. I went right over to her, slapped her leg, and plopped down at her feet. When she looked at me, and she was looking down at me, and I was grinning at her in such a way that she burst out laughing. I can't remember my first few Christmases, but I'm sure I had a lot of fun. When I was almost 3 years of age, my mother came home with a new baby. I could hardly, the illustration, first one foot, then the other. I could hardly stand the first week. Guess who got all the attention? Not me. Nancy was my new sister. Now life was really a drag. My big sister Vonda was going to school, and Mother was too busy with the new baby. Of course, my father was at work. Nowadays, I could stand in the pen and yell all I wanted to, but all I would get would be a slap on my behind. You see, Mother didn't have time for me anymore. The more I thought about this, the madder I got. One day, Daddy came home with a cake that had 3 candles on it. That day was my 3rd birthday. I had all the attention. Preschool me. After my 3rd birthday, I was taken to a barber shop and was given my first haircut. All my beautiful golden curls were gone. Oh well, they were soon back, but I didn't notice them. I had given all my attention to a cat. I called him Tom. Then one day, to my surprise, I found Tom under the porch with 5 kittens. Tom's name was quickly changed to Tommy. At 3 1/2, my favorite toy was a jack-in-the-box. I remember turning the handle. All of a sudden, a funny old clown would pop up. It would always scare me for a minute because I didn't know when he would come up. Later I learned that when the music said pop, the clown with the red nose could be expected. One day I got really mad at the Jack in the Box because the clown would always stick out his tongue at me. So the next time he came up was his last. I pulled him completely out of his box, spraying and all. All my beautiful golden curls were gone. My first illness that I can remember was the chicken pox. One morning I woke to find small red bumps on my tummy. I showed them to Mother, and she put me to bed. That's where she kept me for the next week. Once I got a glance at myself in the mirror, my face was covered with red bumps. Finally, they were all gone and I could play again. What a relief. Here's some pictures. Me at 1 year. Me in the baby buggy, 6 weeks old. I thought it was a pretty baby. Where's the middle here? This is me at 3 at my birthday party. That's Nancy. This is me at 2.5, probably 2 in Michigan. Here's Mother and Dad, and they're holding me in their arms. This is the 5 of us. Mother had 5 in Washington State, where we were stationed in Whidbey Island. Vonda, Joyce, Nancy, Sam, and David. Vonda and myself. In Michigan, I'm 1.5. This is me in the 5th grade. This is in California at Balboa Park. Grandmother and Granddad came from Mississippi, Vonda and myself, to take us to the zoo. My 3rd grade teacher, Miss Miller. This is my 4th grade picture. And Vonda and me in California on Coronado Island, kissing for the photographer. Me at school. I entered school September 1954. I went to Point Clear School. My teacher's name was Mrs. Robinson. I think I had lots of fun the first day. I met children I had never known before. I remember the first lunch we had there. It consisted of black-eyed peas and cornbread and rice. Of course, we had milk. The 3rd or 4th day, I noticed a cute boy. It was love at first sight. His name was Michael. Every week, 2 children would stay in during recess to change the desks. One time I stayed in. I moved my desk right beside his. One time the school put on a pageant. The 6th grades were to choose a king and queen. The 1st grade girls were to be the court. I remember Grandmother fussing over my formal. I remember the many hours of practice going on and coming off the stage. At last it was the big night, but boy did we goof. We came on all right, but we completely forgot how to go off. What a mess. Here's our Point Clear School, red brick schoolhouse. The next thing I knew, school was out. I had passed to the 2nd grade. 9, 10, 11, 12. My 2nd grade teacher was Peggy Miller. I wrote my teachers' names down here and put this note in here. 2nd grade, Mrs. Peggy Miller. Third and fourth, I had the third of Miss Miller in Whidbey Island, Washington. This Miss Peggy Miller went to Magnolia Springs, Alabama school, and then she, when her husband went to New Mexico to be missionaries to the Native Americans. In the 4th grade, I had Mrs. Majoris, who married in the summertime and became Mrs. Sund at Clover Valley Elementary on Whidbey Island, Washington. The 5th and 6th grade were at Hyde Park Elementary in Jacksonville, Florida. Our principal was Callie Cootie. Time went on and I was in the 4th grade. My teacher's name was Mrs. Sund. She was kind to us children and we had a good time that year. The name of the school I was attending was called Clover Valley. It was new and very modern. I think it was the best and always will be the best school I have ever attended. The 4th grades once put on a program at the high school gym. Each class learned several dances and did them that night. It was a great success. We went on a field trip to the Naval Air Station, to the weather tower. Mrs. Sund and all of us enjoyed it very much. I passed to the 5th grade that summer. My father, who is in the Navy, got his orders. They told him to come to Jacksonville, Florida. We came, but got here a little late. School had already started. Mrs. Battle brought me to my room. Mrs. McCall was the teacher's name. She said she already had too many children, so I was brought to Mrs. McClendon's room. At first, I did not like anything about Hyde Park, but as time went on, I became fond of everything. I remember we were always having films. I'd say we had on an average of one a day. The field trip I remember was the trip to Gainesville, Florida, the University of Florida. We rode on a Greyhound bus and didn't get back until about 3:30. One of my favorite vacations was the trip to my grandmother's house. It was a long ride. I'd say about 12 hours. Here's the illustration. Each class learned several dances. Going to my aunt's was even more fun. You see, they lived on an old dirt road way out in the country. Staying on their farms was lots of fun, too. I was 11 when I entered Mrs. McCubbin's 6th grade room. She's the one who graded this, gave me an A-, said she liked it. Mrs. McCubbin, I thought, was a crazy, mixed-up old lady. A few weeks later, I loved her more than any other teacher I'd ever had. I made some good friends in Mrs. McCubbin's class. They are Janice, Cheryl, Marilyn, Diane, and Janet. The two happiest times in my life, I think, when I joined the Church of the Nazarene and when I was saved. I am convinced that I have found the right way to live. One of my most unhappy times I have ever known was when my family had to get rid of our dog. He was a cute little fellow with his tan coat and black tips on his nose and tail. We called him Sporty. We had carried him in the car from Alabama to Washington State. At Yellowstone National Park, the bears would always come around the car and look in the windows. This would scare Sporty to death. When we arrived at our destination and found the place we were to live, we were overjoyed until we discovered the "No Pets Allowed" sign. We took Sporty to an old country road and dumped him. I can still see him today, running after our car with a forlorn look in his eyes. That was the last I ever saw of him. O crystal ball, O crystal ball, with light so bright, what do I see in you tonight? Be it fair or very sad, will it make me glad or mad? Here's the illustration of the crystal ball. I hope to get through high school and college. I hope to be a veterinarian since I have loved animals ever since I can remember. I would like to be married in the last semester of my college term. I would like very much to marry a nice young Christian lawyer with lots of money. I will have my wedding in a beautiful old church. I shall have nothing but a white silk gown reaching all the way to the floor and a long veil and train. My veil shall be of the daintiest lace, and that money can buy. I shall have a diamond engagement ring and a diamond wedding ring. I want to be carried across the threshold on our wedding of our new house. I think a wonderful wedding gift from my mother and dad would be a new car. I want 3 children in the family. I would like 2 girls and 1 boy. The girls would have a room to themselves, and so would my little boy. I will call my 2 sisters, my 2 girls if I have to, Joyce and Vera, Joyce after my name, and Vera after her great-grandmother's name. I will name my little boy after his father. I will quit work when I am about 30, so I can spend some time with my children. I hope to live a long, happy life and go home to live with Jesus someday. The end.